So arrangement is one of those things that is simply hard to just figure out as a learning producer. You know, synthesis and sound design is very concrete, but arrangement is much more conceptual. And a lot of it is just trial and error until we improve, which is kind of a frustrating process. So today I'm going to show you how I actually teach my students to actually learn arrangement themselves via something that I call the arrangement bank. I've also linked below a really nice free arrangement checklist, so that will hopefully help guide you sort of get the right ingredients for your arrangements. The arrangement bank. So if you think of it like this, every experienced producer will have a bank of ideas in the back of their mind, often subconsciously, that they'll just draw from for arrangement ideas and arrangement techniques, things that they've used in past tracks, things that they've picked up here and there from friends, from collaborations, just a big bank of ideas and techniques they'll use when they start arranging their track that they can adapt to each track that they're working on. But the thing is, when we're learning, we don't have this arrangement bank because we haven't had the time to develop them. So instead, what we're going to do is actually manually create this bank ourselves. So for me, I like to write things down. So I've got a pen, I've got a piece of paper here, and I'll literally be writing these things down in order for me to remember them. But whichever way you learn, that's totally up to you. Let's get on to building our bank. So first things first, you should specialize this to you, of course. We're all different, and so where you are lacking in arrangement is going to be different to everyone else. So maybe you want to learn about intros, or maybe you want to learn about the actual drop section and how it's developed, or maybe you want to learn about how to go into a breakdown or how to go into a drop. So it's all going to be different. We're going to be analyzing a few different sections today, but it would definitely be helpful to pick an area or so and then focus on that key area of your arrangement. So as you can see here, I've dragged some tracks into my DAW, and I would recommend to do exactly this. You know, pick 4 or 5 songs that you really like and just drag them into your DAW, and we're going to start analyzing them and start to extract techniques within them that we can use in our own tracks. So for instance, maybe I'm lacking at my drops, and whenever I go into a drop, I'm not really too sure what I should be doing, and I want to get some ideas for a few different styles and techniques that I can use for drops and build up that, you know, drop arrangement bank. So I'd go write down, okay, the peak drop of my track, and then we'll start to build some ideas. Let's first listen to this one. This is a good example of a track with a very particular style of drop. So let's listen to this track first. I'm just going to play little snippets of it so YouTube doesn't delete this video for copyright. So it sounds like this. So it's kind of like an old school housey track, and it has a very sort of humble, authentic feel to it. And let's just have a listen to this little drop section in here. So this is a very particular style of drop, and this is something that I would call, you know, like a peak time, almost like maximal energy drop. You know, this producer has just thrown in everything that they have into the ring. You know, the ride, all of the energy, everything is in the track at this moment. There's nothing else that comes in after this. It only just builds down in energy after this. So it's a very particular style, and it works with that old school feel. So you can write this down, and this is our first technique, right? As opposed to this track here, this is one of my own tracks that I produced and released. And this is a house track as well, but it has a bit of a different style. So it's kind of like dubby, a little bit more chill. Let's have a listen to this sort of breakdown here into this drop here. So what we've actually done here is in the first half of the song, if you listen to this, there's a whole bunch of synths here which are really defining the song. They're the main synths, you could call them, right? And what I've actually done in the drop here is actually taken out the main synths and added a second synth, which is a different one, which is like more of a hypnotic, more of a chill synth. So What you could call this is more like an ambient drop, or more of a minimalistic drop, or a chill drop, or a hypnotic drop. Whatever way you want to describe it, it's a different style of drop from the last one, because we're actually saving some things for a little bit later on, and we can still develop the song a little bit later on, rather than just going all out here and then developing down. So let's have a look at another track that I have here. And this is a completely different style of track, and it calls for a different style of drop, right? So having a bank of these different styles and different ways you can move the track is a really good idea. This was what we're starting to try and develop here. So have a listen to this drop, and also have a listen to this breakdown, how it's completely different. It's very full in this breakdown, and then we strip out all of the space, but all the main elements are in there. I'm not taking out any main elements. I'm not changing any main elements. I'm just simply stripping it back and creating a lot of contrast. So let's have a listen to this drop.
Back to the sound of
So you could call this more of an energetic, contrasting drop. We're using the space to contrast this section, which is very clean. The language that you use is totally up to you. I have created my own little language, which I use to analyze songs. Simply the task of listening analytically to other people's drops and how they're doing things is going to help you when it comes to creating your own ones. So I want to show you a particular arrangement technique, which I've used so many times in so many of my tracks, but it just works. It simply just works. And that is, let's say I've got a drop, and I've developed the idea, brought some more drums in. What I tend to do is build some sort of anticipation and tension that the track's going to change. And the way that I do that a lot of the time is with pads, so ambience, synths, sort of background synths. So have a listen to this. So you can hear in the background there's that synth that's building. And it's building that anticipation that something is going to happen, something's going to change. And then once we've built that anticipation, have a listen to the change here. What happens here? I'm asking you the question, what do you think is happening? Try to analyze this yourself before I go ahead and reveal the answer for you. What things are coming out? What things are coming in? Let's have another listen. So that ambience there has built, right? It's continually building, and what we're doing is taking all the drum elements out, except for the kick and the bass. So the low end stays there, and then we fill the ambience up with things. We fill it with echoes. We fill it with just a lot of spatial elements. And then once we have this kick bass section go on for a little bit, and the ambience building, this is a perfect lead in to a breakdown. So have a listen to this. Kick is taken out, and the drums come back in. And then we're starting to build a little bit more, so the rhythm's coming back, and then we're sort of starting to hint that the drop's coming. So, this is just a really classic technique. Build some anticipation, take out all the elements except for the low end, go into your breakdown, and then go into your drop. It's just a really natural sounding progression, and this is one particular technique that has been in my bank and been used many times. So if I contrast that song against this one, this is obviously a techno track, much quicker, completely different vibe. Let's have a look at the techniques that they're using to go into this breakdown section here, right? So we've got this track. It's quite stripped back and sort of minimalistic and dry. There's lots of drums and sort of a tight little bass groove going on. And then if we go over here, this section, you can see that they've built that synth in the background, just like I was talking about with my track, that technique of bringing in that synth and building that anticipation. And then have a listen to how they've gone into this section here. So voila, they've built that synth, that anticipation with the synth, and then they continue building that synth, and then they just take the low end out of the track, and that builds that anticipation of the breakdown. So now we can use this technique and put this one in our bank as well. So we can write down, build anticipation with pad into the breakdown, keep building pad, and take out low end, or take out kick drum, or take something fundamental out. And then we can look at even how they go into the drop there as well. Right? So I would call this more of an ambient, almost like a euphoric drop. The pad stays in there, and then they bring in all the elements as well as the pad, and people put their hands in the air or dance, whatever. So hopefully that makes sense. This is a really nice exercise to do if you're sort of stuck with your arrangement, just analyzing how other people are doing their arrangements, and just building that bank like we've been talking about all session, that bank of ideas that you can pull from, so that you're never really stuck for ideas when you're arranging your tracks. So once you have a list of ideas that you've written down in your bank, I would really highly recommend going over to a loop that you've created in your Ableton session and just trying to create a few of those ideas that you've done in your bank. So that style of drop or that style of breakdown. So this is how I learned arrangement personally, and I'm hoping that this helps you out as well. So good luck on all the self-learning that you'll be doing with your arrangement and your analyzing of tracks. It's actually a lot of fun once you get into it. I hope you've enjoyed the video today. If you have, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.